So we are welcoming our first guest to the show, Barnard Sims. And Barnard has a book called The Southern Awakening that came out earlier this year. And he's also a chess expert.
Ooh.
And well, you're a coach, so you can't coach chess if you're not an expert. So anyway, and he has a nonprofit. So he's going to tell us all about those things during the interview. And Barnard, if you could unmute your mic so we can hear you. We can see you, but we want to be able to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Well, thank you for having me at Black Authors Matter TV. It's a blessing to be here. Black Authors Matter and Black bookstores matter, and people like you and your husband Willie, who founded the organization like this to give people like me from the rural South a voice, that matters too. So thank you all for having me here, you and Rhonda. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for being here. Now, what part of the South are you from?
I'm from Georgia. It's in between Athens and Atlanta, closer to Athens. But I'm from the South, and not far from where Ahmaud Arbery was gunned down and killed by three vigilantes. So not far from there. So the realities of racism weighs heavy, and it's real, but it's very important for us to have access to people like you all to amplify our voices outside of this region, because sometimes inside of this region we won't change unless the world is ashamed by our acts.
And that's what happens. I mean, a lot of people were ashamed about what happened in 2020, and it wound up actually opening the doors for people to learn more about why we say Black Lives Matter, and they learn more about our art, more about our history. So I think that's the good part that came out of it. And you mentioned the Ahmaud Arbery case. My sorority sisters in that area have been very, very active and making sure that his story does not fall by the wayside. And they've been doing a lot of community service and a lot of activism out there. So I have to give a very special shout out to the ladies of Zeta Phi Beta sorority over in Georgia for what they're doing to work with the family, with Ahmaud Arbery's family, and what they're doing to make sure that legislation continues to be pushed through.
Yes. I mean, people outside of here were like shocked that something like this could happen, but people here, we're so accustomed to it, we normalize it. We were amazed that somebody finally got arrested and convicted. So that's at least a positive change in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Well, video evidence is powerful, and that's in just about every situation. If you have video evidence, pictures worth 1,000 words. And while eyewitness testimonies can vary, the video is not. It doesn't change.
We can't always say that video evidence tells the whole story, or video evidence is going to be conclusive, because we know very many cases where there was video evidence and the people in that video got off. So
well, that's true, but without a video, in this case, they wouldn't have even probably been arrested or found, without the video. So the video evidence, we would rather have it than not have it.
And we also got to realize that the video evidence, the only reason we saw it is because they showed it. They were so proud of what they did, and they didn't see anything wrong with it, that they recorded it and showed it to us. So I'm just saying, this is the mindset of the surroundings of the people that I'm involved with every day.
Well, well, let's move on to a cheerful subject. Let's talk. Let's talk about Barnard the barber.
Right, and I don't own a nonprofit yet. I actually work with a nonprofit, Leap for Literacy, where they sponsor children to become first-time authors themselves, under the premises of in African culture, the story of the hunt only favors the hunter until the lion shares the truth. And so we're trying to encourage more literacy and more readers in our community, because as you know, this is the lions telling their truth, and I want to be an example for that, and through my literacy journey.
Okay. So how long have you worked with the nonprofit?
I work with several nonprofits. So basically all my adult life, Chess and Community, Leap for Literacy, just to name a few. I'm very passionate about, doing good service work.
And that's what I was
Okay.
going to ask you. I wanted to hear about your literacy journey, and why you decided to take this on, because you have chess and then you're also promoting literacy, and then you brought those two worlds together. So I'd like to find out how all of this started for you.
Basically necessity. I was sitting at home during the pandemic and uh watching George Floyd on the ground crying for his life, and my little daughter looking at the TV screen and said, "Dad, why doesn't that police officer get off that man's neck?" She was 8 years old. And I realized in that moment that why should it take a advanced society all this time, all these protests to get a conviction finally and get a arrest and a conviction when this 8-year-old child knew that something was wrong instantly. And so I realized that in order to fix the state of the system, first I have to fix me, and in challenging these structures and hoping to encourage our society to expect better, because we are better. And that literacy, that as far as me becoming an author, it was just out of necessity and frustration and looking around and not having another viable option to express myself, because if I raise my hands, the police will shoot me. So I have to kind of calmly articulate myself in a manner that's not aggressive. And so writing was my path to liberation for that. That's why I want to, because as men and as boys especially, we're taught growing up, shut up, stop that crying, or I give you something to cry about.
Right.
And so we internalize a lot of things without having an outlet to express ourselves. We're expected to be Superman without a booth to change into our costume in. And so writing for me was it was my booth. It was my way to pave a pathway to liberation. And as Frederick Douglass said, it's hard to enslave a man once they learn the power of reading. And so I started to read and write.
Now, when did you become a barber?
Oh, that's been all my life. It was something I found, like growing up. I love to create artistically, and my mother used to put all kinds of pieces of paper on the floor, and I would just draw for hours. And so the barbering is like my way to create stuff artistically with clippers, and that became like a thing for me. But also it's critical in my writing because, again, in African culture, the wisest people in the village are usually the ones who spend the most time absorbing and listening to the wisdom of the elders. And in our communities, who spends more time than the barbers and beauticians in our community, listening to the wisdom of the elders than barbers and beauticians in our community? So that's what the perspective I write from. I have a hand on the pulse of my community, actually. And so I want to amplify their voices and things they may not have the courage to say. I want to be able to speak up on their behalf in my community, my behalf and my community's behalf through writing.
People say that you can, that's where men gather and share their gossip is at the barbershop. So
they also look, often they look at the barber as the elder. Often that older barber who's been there for a long time, he's a respected person in the community. So I see exactly that correlation that you're making there.
And let's not forget, it's kind of, you have a lot of influence on a man when you license to hold a razor to his neck. Let's not forget that.
Very true. Very true.
Hard to disagree with a man with a razor to your neck.
Now on the creative side, some of the styles that people are wearing now, young men and boys, they have really gotten creative. You have just regular cuts, you have locks, you have, all kinds of styles now. Whereas before, the past, well, it ebbs and flows because, it'll be a little more conservative for a while and then things spring up. Now, do the styles come from the barber Do they come from the community? Where do they emanate? You know, when it's a new style, who decides it's a new style?
It's
Do you
kind of
know?
organic and it
Okay.
reproduces itself. It's like, you know, Mr. T was wearing a mohawk back then, and everybody thought he looked crazy, but he was too big and bulky for somebody to say that to him. But then, you know, now everybody's wearing a mohawk. So I think it's like it evolves and it changes a little bit over time. As they say, nothing's new under the sun, but it
Mhm.
circles around. If you look at like braids, when you look at the hieroglyphics, you see that people back in ancient times had braids and stuff, and we thinking just now people getting fired from jobs for having cornrows, but people had cornrows way back when. So I think it evolves over time and it's organic.
So how did you bring all of these worlds together? Bernard the barber, and then you're Bernard the chess champion, chess coach, and the books. How did you bring all of these worlds together?
It's really, to me, it's all the same thing. It's based off of feeling. When I'm actually a district chess coach for kids at the Boys and Girls Club, was volunteering doing that, and our motto was from Chess and Community was think before you move. But my motto that I wanted, because I noticed that in our school systems, our kids were being overlooked as far as put in the gifted programs, and they would be exposed to chess, but uh, a lot of our kids are gifted. So why are they in these programs in the South? And so my motto in that was, and before every chess lesson at the Boys and Girls Club, I would have the kids repeat after me: I am smart, I am gifted. My next move will be my best move. And that's
Mm.
preparing them for success, which is part of the book that Southern Awakening is in, like many phases, but it's one is personal responsibility. We have to believe we can achieve in order to have success. I always heard the country folks in the South say the man who thinks he can and the person who thinks they can't are both right. And so it
Mm.
starts with personal responsibility. And so in merging of those worlds, I like to see other people succeed. And I was able to go into a Boys and Girls Club. Well, the leaders on the board were like, these kids can't play chess. All they can do is run around. And I said, that's part of the problem is we don't think they can. And if we don't think they can, how are they ever going to be successful? So I don't subscribe to that. And I went in there, and in 3 months, I took a group of kids, and none of them had ever played chess before. We went to a regional tournament and we almost wiped the table clean because
Mm.
I believe in that. And once our children believe, then they can achieve.
Mhm. They probably were underestimated. And, you know, that's a lot of times that's one of your best weapons. When your
Mhm.
opposition doesn't think that you can beat them,
Mhm.
they underestimate your skills. And so that's great. You know, I never learned how to play chess. And I think I tried once and looked at it and I just didn't. Um, but it's a great strategic game. I mean, you know, there's a saying, play chess, not checkers.
Mhm.
And that's uh, a testament to the strategy that's involved with chess. You have to be able to anticipate your opponent's moves, like 2 or 3, what he'll do when that part I know. You know,
Mhm.
if you make a move, you have to be able to anticipate how they're going to respond to your moves, maybe 2 or 3 steps ahead. So
Yeah.
that's great. I'm glad that you did do that, because children can learn. Children are sponges. They can learn whatever they're taught. But if no one thinks they can and doesn't take the time to actually teach them, then they won't.
Well, I agree with that. I think that our kids are often very naturally gifted, and then when they learn something, not just gifted, but they're actually naturally competitive. So when
Mhm.
they learn something new, they want to get as good as they can at it.
Yeah.
And then when it's time to compete, they want to get even better at it. And I think it's one of the reasons for that is we don't take those things for granted. We're learning something new. We're learning something that other people don't know, so we want to be even better at it. And
Mhm.
we want to be better than the next person at it, so we wind up being good at it. I mean, if we look at Venus and Serena, they grew up in a neighborhood where nobody was playing tennis, It wound up being all-time tennis champions. We just celebrated Serena as being the greatest of all time.
And everybody told their dad he was crazy.
Right,
These things that they could do it. So you know, you can't listen to naysayers. People who are negative, don't listen to them, because sometimes they, you know, sometimes it's, you know, the craft thing. Sometimes they just don't understand what you see. You can see something they can't see, and they can't understand it. But negativity, I don't listen to it. I turn it off. Because if you have something constructive, that's one thing. But if you're just being negative just for the sake of being negative, that's wasted energy. And so I don't listen to those people.
Right. So we have a few minutes left. I wanted to find out the Southern Awakening. What exactly is the Southern Awakening?
It's a Black man's guide to liberating the rural South. And one of the questions I get asked most of the time is, why the Black man's guide to liberating the rural South? And my response is, I've read thousands of books with white folks coming up with their solutions for our people. Why not from a Black man's perspective? Who can tell you more what's wrong with our society than a person who's ended up walking out of their doors with and try to do everything right, and doors still slamming in our faces of supposed marginal, viewed marginalized people? We all know we did as Black Americans, we go out into a world where our parents have taught us you got to be 2 times better to get half a chance. Well, that's not fair. You know, that's too much pressure to expect somebody to pitch a perfect game every day of their life for the rest of their life. I think we got to challenge our world to be better. And that's where the awakening begins, is to challenge these structures, especially in rural pockets of oppression. Because what Donald Trump did teach us is that these rural folks are crazy enough to try to overthrow an election. And so if we could try to appeal to some of those, not those that went to the Capitol, because it's hard to reason with somebody who went to the Capitol in white feces. I'm sorry, y'all, but on the walls of Congress, it's hard to reason with somebody like that. But there are people on the fringes in the rural South that just don't understand. And they think, hey, I'm not racist, I have a black truck. I'm like, okay, well, that makes you not racist, but but if that makes you not racist, well, let's be anti-racist. Let's all come together and be against something because it's wrong. And let's build a community that's embraces to everybody and all of our cultures. We all come in different shapes, sizes, and colors. Let's utilize our different skill sets and talents to build a better community for us all.
Amen.
So do you have a copy of your book?
Yes, I think I got one behind me.
Oh, show it to us.
Oh, okay.
So we'll know. So when people go online, they'll know what to look for when they go to look for the book. They know what the cover looks like. Okay, and I'm assuming that's a picture of you on the cover.
Yeah, that's me on a good day.
Okay. Photo. That's nice. And it looks like it's a hardcover book, is it?
This is a hardcover.
Okay.
I'm actually working on the audio book. Hopefully my voiceover coach, Dane Reed, is listening. He's trying to get me right on my audio book.
If your voiceover coach takes away your beautiful accent, I'm gonna have to fight with him.
No, he don't do that. He got a Jamaican sort of like Harlem, but not Harlem, but New York, Jamaican, New York.
Okay.
But he embraces me right where I'm at. Although he did tell me when I was some of the words I was pronouncing, you know, in the South, we say the first part of the word and we expect you to figure out the rest of it. So he's been working with me on enunciating.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So you're gonna read your own book?
Yes. I've been taking acting lessons and voiceover lessons.
Okay.
Because I know the characters in there. Yeah, I changed characters from the white guy who's like, I'm not racist. I got a black cat. My cousin dates a black. Well, I done heard all kind of excuses of what's not racist in the South, as y'all can imagine.
Oh, that's gonna be fun. You doing the different voices. I can see that. But I'm guessing you say characters. So this is actually a nonfiction book, isn't it?
Right. But I'm chronicling real experiences in the South. Real experiences. a life of experiences and pooling that with experiences of the community. You know, because they share things with the barber, and I've been a liaison like writer for the legal redress team for the NAACP. So I'm chronicling and compiling all of those stories into the Southern Awakening.
Okay. I had a question. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just saying it should be interesting.
I had a question about there was a movement a while back. I don't know how far back, and I don't know if it's still going on, but it was with barbershops in different cities, Black barbershops people were donating books to the barbershops. And when the children would come in to get their hair cut, they would have the books available. Did you participate in that, or did you have anything like that in your barbershop?
Yes, I did have like books from the program that I sponsored for like children illustrated books in my barbershop, but I wasn't an author before the pandemic. When the pandemic hit, I had 3 months to just sit there and, you know, contemplate, how can I make a contribution to the elevation of humanity? And that's what I came up with in the Southern Awakening.
Okay. Yeah, because I just wondered about that children's book program that I had been reading about. And I can't remember exactly when it was. But it was recently.
Okay, and I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Rhonda.
Okay, no, I was just gonna say we have a few minutes left, and I would love if you could tell the audience where they can find your book, because I think a lot of what you're saying is really resonating with the audience, and I'm looking at the comments as they're coming in, and I know that there are going to be people who want to either connect with you or to read this book, or even both.
Well, the best place, as authors, we all understand the best place to get them is from Barnard the Barber, BARNARD. I spell my name with A, BarnardTheBarber.com. But if you don't get it there, please support like local independent Black-owned bookstores. Even though in the South, some of these white stores are really embracing me, like Wall of Books, you know, because it's very competitive in the marketplace. Even on Amazon, I get a lot of sales there. It's basically everywhere anywhere books are sold. But the thing is, when people buy on Amazon, they don't leave a review. It's like if you get 50 or more reviews, then that puts you in a different plateau as an author. But I got like 1,000 kinfolks, and they'll get the book and won't leave a review. So I'm trying to work on that.
That's a battle we all fight. Don't feel bad.
It is.
People all the time. I probably say it every week. If we want our first and second time authors to become national best-selling authors, to be career authors and so forth, we have to support them at that first and second author level. You know, continue to share books. Now, when I say share book, I don't mean you buy a book and then let 10 of your friends read that one book. That's not supporting the author. But share links. Tell people to buy the book. Leave a review, because there are a lot of people who will not buy a book unless they read the reviews.
Right.
And if they don't see the reviews, they're automatically going to think it's not a good book.
Right.
So we've got to support our fellow authors.
Right.
Yeah, it's like the chicken and the egg principle.
Right,
You
right.
know? So it is important. Reviews are important, but I tell people, don't leave a negative review. Just because if you didn't like the book, just don't say anything. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything.
I read it. If you're going to leave a negative review, I would just say at least make it a constructive negative review. I mean, there are some people who just totally trash books.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
people who just have, you know, negative people. This is not. I don't like negative people. So if you're going to, and then if you have something criticism, contact the author directly. You don't have to publicize it. You can send the author an email. But we know your reviews are going to be great, Barnard. So we're not worried about that. But it is important. It is important to do reviews, because I'm a reader. I do that. I pay attention to the reviews. I'm an avid reader, so I want to read something that's at least worth my time reading.
Absolutely.
And but a lot of times if it's a memoir or a biographical, you can't, the person's life is their life. So what they're going to say is It's not something that they can duplicate from somebody else. It's their own personal experience.
Right.
Well, we're at the end of our half hour, but
Right.
we really appreciate your being a guest on the show. And your book, The Southern Awakening, is available wherever books are sold.
And
Okay.
leave a review because support is an action verb.
It is.
Okay.
That's
You
why
are
I ended
right.
with
We
economic
posted the
people.
website in the chat, and now I'll post it one more time before you go off. But one of the viewers, Bernita, wanted to know where you were from, just real quick. What part of Georgia is it again?
In between Athens and Atlanta.
So what's the name of the town?
Statham, Georgia, the big city of Statham, Georgia, is one red light, and I don't know why it's red because ain't nothing coming but a train. But if you've been through it, the sign say well, and then it don't even say come because by that time you're already gone. It's very small.
Okay, now I'm gonna have to visit that town.
It won't take you long.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show tonight. We really appreciate it, and we really enjoyed the conversation, and we wish you all the best in your future endeavors with your books and with coaching and with your barbershop and everything else.
Thank you. Thank you both for having me. It's been a pleasure. Blessings to y'all.
All right, thank you.
Okay, same here.
Thank you.
Okay.